Okey-dokey.
Call this May 12th, 2025 meeting of the Montgomery Town Council to order. All members are present. I'd like to welcome those in attendance. We have Nancy Westbreak from the Graphic as usual. We have Donna Wood and Lee Carter from Capital Management of the Carolinas. And they'll be presenting to us a little bit later. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The approval of the last month's minutes and the finance report.
I make a motion, we approve them.
Second.
Any further discussion on the consent agenda? All in favor of approval of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is passed. Sheila, did we have any public comment?
No, sir.
Mr. Jackson, do we have a fire report?
We have not received one as of this time.
After they've had a chance to talk, I'm gonna come back and revisit that. All right. Council reports. Mr. Jackson is up for audit this month, or this quarter. Do we have any other?
COG meets on the May the 20th, and we're meeting at the powerhouse at the McNeil because National Community College is having their graduation, so we'll be meeting there.
I had spoke with LaRue Weaver about the position on the planning board, and she said she would be honored and be willing. When do we take those announcements or
Well,
nominate?
next month. They don't have another meeting until after next month's meeting, so there wasn't any need to squeeze it into this one necessarily, so we'll be good.
Richard, did you talk to Joel?
I have a little bit, but don't have a word.
Well, LaRue really wants to participate, and she did a good job with our community day and everything, so.
Any other items? Any correspondence, Sheila?
The only correspondence I have about is the insurance. I told y'all that. The NCLM was doing away with doing the dental and the vision and the life insurance that y'all have which y'all pay for annually, excuse me, I'll get it right in a minute. I did finally get the rates on the dental and the vision. I'm working that out so we can figure out which one y'all want to go with. And on the life insurance, I'm still trying to hammer down exactly if y'all are eligible to do it as a group or if you have to do it as an individual.
Yeah, I got a letter
Because
on
of
that,
your
I know
age.
y'all probably do.
Yeah, we all got a letter, but bear with me till next month and I'll have it all hammered out by then, hopefully. But I didn't have any permits or, anything to report for this month.
Now on to our new business, and the first item of new business is gonna be Donna and Lee. They have some information to bring forth to us about some financial
instruments,
and I'll just turn it over to them.
Okay. Well, I want to introduce myself. I'm Donna Wood. Prior to working with the trust, I was finance director for Nash County for 10 years and Wilkes County 5 years prior to that. Lee has been working with the trust. This is Lee Carter. He's been working with the trust for 28 years, and prior to that, he worked with the School of Government and the Local Government Commission. So I'd also like to thank you for allowing us to come and join your meeting this morning. We just want to give a brief overview of the North Carolina Capital Management Trust and the opportunities it offers. So I met with Sheila and Will back in March, and so they invited us to come to your meeting, and so we're excited to be here. But the trust, North Carolina Capital Management Trust, is a SEC registered money market mutual fund created to provide safe, liquid investment for North Carolina local governments. Certified by the Local Government Commission, which is required by North Carolina General Statute 15930. And we're the only investment certified by the local government commission. And that's required because we're a mutual fund.
Early on, when we incorporated, one of our past, he was trying to do good, Ronnie Pace, we had investments in the stock market. And we found out we were not following protocol, a little bit illegal, but we changed all of that. That's so many rules and regulations in that area.
Safety first.
Yeah, we didn't get caught, but CPA caught us.
That's good.
Y'all can't do this. But we're doing good.
Until you're not. We're AAA rated by Standard & Poor's and Moody's. And I want to let you know, this does not take the place of your bank account, your bank operating account. It's just an additional investment that's allowed under North Carolina statutes for cash management. Capital management. And offers same ability of funds through wire and ACH. The annual management fees of the fund are 0.14%, and the monthly earnings are net of the fee. So what we provided to you on the sheet, we gave you a history, a 6-year history of our rates, and then up in the top right corner are our current rates. So a 1 day is 4.20, the 30-day is 4.22, and the annualized rate is 4.30, and that's net of the management fees. The trust invests. The North Carolina is an investment, and so it's not insured through the FDIC as a bank deposit is insured, but the way that we're protected is what we invest in. So we invest in U.S. Treasuries and government securities. The trust has been serving eligible investors. Go ahead.
The mechanics of that, how does that work versus?
The FDIC. Well, the U.S. Treasuries and government agencies, they're backed by the full credit of the U.S. government, and so they're considered one of the safest investments. So that the U.S. government makes the commitment to pay their principal and interest, and that's the protection that we have. With the same with other mutual funds, with other investments in treasuries, that's how you're protected. You want to add anything to that?
And if you think about what you said about the difference between that and the stock, the basic goal for us is to make sure you put $1 in and get $1 out, so the principal stays the same, and so we can only invest in really short-term things, and it have to be the safest investment since it's public funds.
But is there a guarantee?
It's, as with being an SEC registered fund, for any kind of fund like that, you're not allowed to guarantee anything. And so, with it being treasuries, the federal government could do something really weird. And so, nobody in this, it's a $22 billion fund, and nobody's ever lost any money on it. This is different than like a normal fund you'd have with a retirement program, but we're not allowed to guarantee anything by the SEC.
The trust has been serving eligible investors in North Carolina since 1982. We have over 800 participants. We have all 100 counties, over 440 cities and towns, ABC boards, schools, public hospitals, and other North Carolina authorities. And just an example of who participates around here that you may be familiar with. Of course, Nash County, we participated, Wilson County, Edgecombe County, Wake County, Nashville, Middlesex, Castelia, Lucama, Stantonsburg, Zebulon, Knightdale, Wilson ABC Board, and that's just to name a few. They're just some that I thought you guys might be familiar with that are also participants in the trust.
So this would be replaces some of our CD money. If we
That
chose,
was my thought.
but I mean, that's where we get our funds to
Yeah.
invest.
Yeah, and the big thing that kind of flashed this as attractive to me is its liquidity. One of our CDs is basically a rainy day. Well, do we want to have a rainy day and then have to pay a big fee to get the money out of the account, plus have several days to have to wait? The other's an infrastructure. Do we want to have to pay penalties on top of, removing funds in order to pay for infrastructure?
So this product wouldn't have a term like a CD.
No, there's no
It's
term
just
on it.
ongoing.
That's right, and you can put your money in one day and take it out the next. There, time requirement, you can do a wire the same day, ACH if by 4 o'clock, which most of the time if you need your money, you put in your request and your money's in your account the next day, and it just moves from the trust account to your bank account. The portfolio has been managed by Fidelity Investment since its inception. And the investment objectives of the trust are safety and liquidity. It's designed to ensure the principal stays the same. And so for over 40 years, the trust has been successful in maintaining that objective. The trust has a dedicated client service team in Charlotte that's available to process trading activity and establish access to the trading website. And again, this is a simple, eligible way to invest. It's adding diversification without funds being tied up for a set period of time and offering a market rate of return. We would be honored to serve Mo Meyer, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions that you have at this time.
Do y'all do personal individuals?
No, just local governments are the only ones that we're allowed to include in the trust. We've had lots of questions on that as well.
What is the management fee?
My
I know you
dad
told
did
me
this
in
for a
March,
long
but
time.
0.14%.
But you said the yield shown here is minus the,
That's net
That's
of it,
net.
so what you're
Big.
seeing is the rate that you're earning.
I did a little looking back at our prior CD rates, and Martha's trend is pretty close, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How long have y'all been in business?
Since 1982. Harlan Bowles originally started this, he was treasurer, and he wanted to have something available for local governments and to have a different investment objective, and so this has actually been in place since then he put it in place.
You saw a niche.
Well, a need. Because larger local governments had opportunity, they may have an investment department, and smaller local governments, this is available to everyone. But smaller local governments may not have had more opportunity outside of just your regular savings or bank account, and so this was something that really has been a big benefit to a lot of local governments.
I like.
Well, this is our opportunity to pick their brains with any further questions you guys may have. The reason we asked them here now is we're going into our budget time. And so,
Y'all go on projections, so what's your projection for the next year? Without any revenue?
We can't project the rate,
Guarantee, but it's a projection.
but our rates really follow whatever the Federal Reserve does. Just because of what we invest in, so if you know the direction that they're going in, which, do we know the
Y'all
direction?
still operate on projections, though.
Market futures are looking really good this morning, I can tell you that. I predict today's gonna be a good day for stock markets. But yeah, I don't have a problem with not FDIC insured, because if it gets to that point, we're in real trouble. So,
There's gonna be a lot of people in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
we got we got big issues. Hopefully that won't be the case, but I don't, it's not an issue. I mean, the government's really sponsoring anyway.
Exactly. You don't get a whole lot safer than a government bonded agency,
Yeah.
but, you know, I said kinda tongue in cheek when Don was
Since you
here
got
at
a
Mark.
good president.
I said, you know, about the only way you lose money in the deal is if they go find no gold in Fort Knox, you know. So,
Then it just disappeared.
yeah, exactly. And then, you know, then our problems are way bigger than not having any money, so.
I also like it, they said that we could always add money to it whenever
Mhm.
Yeah,
we wanted to. There wasn't any penalties or anything to do that.
I mean, it just keeps us safe on something we're not expecting. And we don't know what that is, but it
right.
could happen.
Well, you can still do
We need,
more partial instead of every bit of it
Exactly,
That's what I'm
Exactly.
thinking too.
exactly.
when we make a decision.
We can, or we can
Well,
put it into our budget discussions.
right. Yeah, let's say the tour.
Right, we have two that are coming to tour next month.
Yeah.
And the other one's what, September, I think?
Well, Sheila got them all at June.
I do.
Yeah. I think one of them is
I think
September.
one's September.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's the time of year to be talking, honey. so.
Right, yeah.
Any more questions for them?
I've got one on in September, Miss Martha.
Well, I'm looking at the sheet right here.
The infrastructure, that's what I'm.
This one, Sheila.
Yeah, same one as this one, it's just shrink a small version.
She
I
said-
don't know, I can't
No, anyway, it don't matter, but yeah,
Hold
it
on,
says
which
nine
one?
Please say
thirty-five.
6.
Sheila, which one is September?
But anyway.
Infrastructure and acquisition,
Huh?
infrastructure and acquisition,
That one's in, okay,
that was September.
okay.
This is the latest Federal Reserve forecast in March. When they met, March 19th. This is their forecasting. So that's on a calendar year, so they're looking at, so right now, the target rate is 4.25 to 4.5. But the 19 members, when they meet each quarter, they sort of do this forecasting, and so what they left in there, and it was a-
Change it.
right, exactly. So what they left in there, potentially by the end of December, 2 more 0.25% decreases in the rate. But again, they're on a wait and see. They said, the whole point was wait, we need to get some information before we make any additional decisions. But they do their best to forecast with the information that they have at that point in time. And so they do, they look at it for calendar year of 2025, 26, and 27. And what they look at on the far right is that would be the neutral rate if they get everything. They get inflation where they want it. Employment is, maximum. And then the neutral rate would be 3%.
And so you asked for a forecast, that's about as good as we can do.
Yeah.
Well, each of you has, Lee and Donna's card, so if we have further questions.
We have our cell phone numbers on there as well, so please feel free to call if you have any additional questions. I'd be happy to talk to you.
thank you,
Thank
y'all.
you again for letting us come.
Appreciate it.
thank y'all.
Thank you. All right. Good to see you.
Just another another option to throw out there while we're doing our budget.
When are the cities mature?
One of them is two of them next month, in June, and one of them in September.
So we got 3 total,
Right, yeah,
one in September.
yeah.
What's the one in September?
One in
200,
September's the
How
Lord.
much?
that's the largest one. 214,558.99.
And the other 2 are what?
One's 154,531.50,
And the other one's what?
60,000.
60.
How did you learn about this opportunity?
They actually came to us. So, called Sheila up, said, hey, we'd like to
So
sit
they
down and
call
talk
us.
to you guys. They did call us. Like she said, she's local, so.
That helps too.
It wasn't like they looked us up online. It was somebody that's likely driven through the town before they called us.
What was your thoughts on dollar mine investment?
With what we have the labels on the CD, with what we have the CDs labeled, both would benefit from liquidity. So I would probably say that's a route to go is the 2 large CDs for sure. One of the ones that matures next month.
So you're
actually
saying
does not
put the
have a
150 and the 214 in it?
Yes. And the reason I do that is, and I say that is, one of those is labeled for infrastructure, and one of those is labeled for emergency fund.
Right, yeah.
Or we could change
in
what they're
both-
labeled for?
And in both of those situations, we don't need to be waiting months for it, and we don't need to be paying a penalty to get it. So,
I got a different outlook on it.
shoot.
I would suggest the 2 coming in June. At least for a trial. And then, cause they come and do it at the same time, and that's $210,000.
And then just kind of let them sit head to head and see how they work.
Right, yeah.
And I think that's probably a safe way.
If it was mine, that's what I would do.
I think that's probably a very safe way to approach it, for sure. So,
Thoughts?
Are we looking to answer this question now, or?
not necessarily, we can, but we don't have to. Like I said, we got budget stuff coming next month. We will want to have an answer next month, probably. Although again, with the easy in and out of it, we could decide to jump into it at any time if we really wanted to.
And what are y'all's thoughts? I'm like, quiet over there.
I don't have any problem either way.
I think it's a good move.
Yeah.
Don't have any problem.
Well, I go ahead and make a motion to come due in June to invest. The 150 and the 60. When they come due,
When they come to it, yes.
which is next month.
Next month.
Yeah, I don't know the actual date, but I have,
I don't know if they either.
I get to find out that. I could call Dylan or.
I think it's on paperwork.
And that's pretty much half of our
Mhm.
CDs, pretty close.
And if you take the 214 out early, you're gonna pay a penalty, so.
Exactly.
It's better to leave that in September anyway.
Good.
I don't like giving people money for nothing.
Right.
Do whatever you get to.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's some we can't help, but that doesn't mean I don't grumble. We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second? Or do we wanna deliberate?
Who seconded it?
Nobody yet.
yet.
Oh,
I'll second it.
Sorry, making myself a note.
I guess, under discussion wise, before we vote, is anybody, or have you heard or talked with anybody that's using them about being satisfied or dissatisfied? Is that something we need to do?
We had some pretty good references.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
pretty
That's everybody all around us, that's why I was basing my motion. But I
You
just,
see like the.
I want everything on the table.
At the cog.
Yeah, I'll see James at COG.
I'm
they
just
didn't say
talking.
Kiss Day, did they? Did they say Kiss Day?
I mean, sounds like they're using everybody around us, so.
I'll check with you. See. And if I see Stacy, they did say Nash County, right?
They did.
If I see
Yeah,
her,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I said,
Nashville or
Nashville.
Macclesfield,
I'll see, if I see her, I'll mention, ask her how they, are they.
Spring Head, and is that Spring Head?
I didn't hear.
Middlesex was on.
Yeah, and I'll probably see Brenda.
I'll stick to my motion.
Do you just need to pass the motion? Because Georgiana seconded it.
Further discussion? Alright, all in favor of moving the two CDs that mature in June into the North Carolina Capital Management Fund, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We will have one note exactly what date those come mature and
Well,
try them out.
I don't think the camera's recording. It's recording the voice, but it's not recording the person. How do you know? Because it's not moving on the screen over here like it usually does when y'all are talking. It's usually moving.
They have
It shows y'all moving. And it's stuck on Donna's head. That's how I know it's not moving.
Well, that's amazing. Alright,
I was just letting you know. Technical difficulty.
I did actually get on YouTube this week. Last
Look
week.
at it.
Look at it. Just, not a long time, but I did.
Yeah, just check it out.
But I saw Sydney Ann at Senior Center a while back. She said, I am so glad y'all, and she's been speaking to me ever since now. I am so glad y'all decided to film the things.
Well, that's good. I'm glad
Yeah, that's
that
what I said. That's good.
I've had several people comment. That they have watched it.
while y'all have that side conversation, I will.
Can you tell how many people are watching?
Oh, you just look at the other day, Will, it was
30 watched the last one.
Live? 30
Here,
watch it
just
live?
put John.
No, it's not
That's
live.
right, I forgot.
At the place behind the hospital.
Well, it's gonna keep getting popular.
Yes. She actually came to the senior center and spoke to all the employees and told them about it. Well, I knew he hadn't been there a couple of weeks, and so
I don't know what it is.
I know.
I don't play with it in the middle of a meeting either.
John.
No, you're fine. I just thought I'd let you know,
Okay.
She had put it in.
so you could do what you want to do.
I've seen it a few times.
So yeah, 40,
It was somewhere behind the hospital in Wilson.
43 or 45 watched the first meeting that was streamed.
That's where.
I'm sorry, what?
43 or 45 watched the first meeting was streamed. it's 29 or 30 who watched last month's meeting, and it's 6 or 7 watched planning board meeting that's a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I need to just go to planning.
Wow.
So,
And it had what, 7 subscribers, wasn't it?
7 subscribers.
What was the planning board?
We can see a
Last
couple of those,
Tuesday
but
night.
most people stay on YouTube.
It was the last,
I don't
it was the
get on it.
last Tuesday of this month.
I've never watched.
I'm not a
one of
member,
yours.
so. I
The
don't
last
care.
Tuesday of this month, it's every quarter.
Oh.
So, I'd like to circle back to the fire report. Because it's almost every month that we don't get it by the council, right? When, have you been getting it days later, or is it just not being sent at
Not
all?
on a regular basis.
Right.
I wanna ask a question. Why do we still do it?
Just to keep communications between us and a good relationship between us and the fire department. And I think it needs to continue. I cannot. What's your point?
Well, and the question is, and the reason for the question
I mean,
is-
they're being called about whether they give it or not.
Right, and.
And it's a new chief, and he's got a new job, and he works in Wilson. That's no excuse. But,
Well, and they don't work for us.
correct.
So I agree that the back and forth communication is important, but if we're not getting the back and forth communication, do we need to be talking up the chain to get it? Or do we need to go
Well,
off and say it's not that important?
When we get it, it comes from the fire chief. I'm actually on the fire board.
Mhm.
I mean, I could pursue another avenue, but he's the one that normally hands it out.
Right. And the reason I asked is whether you were getting it later in the week or something like that is
And I
maybe
have
we
in the
just weren't
past.
giving him enough time.
Right.
Cause that's possible too.
Well, he knows it's second Monday in every month.
Yeah, but I mean.
It ain't on his high agenda.
Exactly. He's got other things on the plate.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm asking is it's kind of a.
And I text him as a reminder Friday, so, but I've not heard any response.
Can we maybe try texting him earlier in the week before the meeting next time, and see if it works. If it doesn't, so be it. If it does, then we.
And maybe if he wanted to sign somebody else to
Yeah,
send it to.
exactly. Yeah. Cause no, I agree that the keeping the communication between the two bodies is important, but at the same time, like
We
you
don't
said,
get-
they have a new chief, they don't really answer to us anyway, so that may be the attitude, you know?
I don't think so,
Okay.
I just personally think it's ain't on his top of his agenda, and I think he's busy. He used to work for the Forestry Service, and he had a lot of free time, and it was a lot better at that time.
Right.
Now he's got a promotion, he works for DOT in Wilson, and he's got a lot more on his plate. I'm not making excuses.
I imagine.
I'm not making excuses, I'm just saying I know that's a difference in his life. But I will address that.
You may just need to delegate it to somebody.
Trust me, I believe in the fire rescue.
Oh, absolutely.
I invested 25 years active in it, and it's been good for this community.
Exactly.
And it's got a lot of history here. And there's a lot more. There's not as many locals,
Mm-hmm.
mobile locals as it used to be involved in it. I mean, they're further out now.
I just wanna make
That's
sure
just
that
some of
we're
the
not,
facts. But
yeah, I just wanna make sure that we're not barking up a tree that we're never gonna get any result for.
Right.
You know, and wasting your time, all that, so. Okay. Next item, telephone and internet company. Sheila, did you finally get through to them?
No.
who do we use now?
Brightspeed.
Brightspeed.
I did, however, it was very funny, anyway. Spectrum called me and was asking about our account. I told them we didn't have an account with them, we were still looking. And the young man that I talked to gave me a quote of $120 a month for 24 months.
Who was that with?
Spectrum. It's,
You should have a sheet in there somewhere, Evan.
50 megabytes of internet.
No, but.
And then the business, one line business voicemail of $20 a month. This is a guaranteed price for 24 months. Then I also talked to Verizon Wireless. They have an internet box you can get, it's 4G and 5G, that's $55 a month. And a phone plan, that's unlimited talk and text, $85 a month. It's an Android phone, I don't like Apple-based phones, but anyway. And the total per month for them would be $158 plus tax. I could not get through to anybody at Brightspeed, but, like I said, theirs right now, we're paying $224 a month, where we used to be paying $156, it went up exponentially for some reason. Like I said, the guy offered me the $120 a month plus tax for the Spectrum. I don't know anything about Spectrum right here.
That's who I have.
Will said that
So I
Allison
have-
uses Spectrum every day and she doesn't have any problems with their internet.
You got Spectrum? Is that son?
So I would think it would probably be okay. But that was the cheapest
I know
rate.
all the people in the subdivision have Spectrum.
You know, just like any other service, when you get a real severe storm, you get glitches and that kind of stuff
Right, yeah.
sometimes. But truthfully, my Spectrum here is better than my Spectrum in Romulus. The equipment's newer actually, believe it or not.
We use Spectrum also.
Do you have your TV too?
I very rarely use it. I have it, but yeah,
I know the
I don't do.
only glitch, as far as telephone, I've not had any. But once in a while, if we got a storm, you'll see some TV interruptions.
Right. But you get
It
that.
is really cloud.
Yeah, you'll
But
get that.
other than that,
And Allison uses a lot of bandwidth. She's running a virtual office and, you know, so she's maybe talking to 40 people at a time, through a VPN and all those other things that take up bandwidth. I don't see any reason that we would ever have an issue here. Because, like I said, once in a while when it's real stormy, she'll have glitches and that kind of stuff, but most of the time it's solid and she can count on it.
Yeah, I say Spectrum, and she was just like every other company, it seems to be in that industry. In 2 years, if it's guaranteed 24 months, then we just notice what happened.
Well,
And
the
either
guy
give them a call
told
and
me,
say, hey,
Yeah.
we're ready to switch to another, just play.
that's what the guy told me. He said that was his job and he would call me in 2 years
Okay.
and say, okay, your thing's giving up. We should change jobs, but you know what
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean. But they would contact me and say, well, we could do this and keep your rate down to this. And
Right.
he said that was his job, but it's guaranteed, he said, for 2 years.
well, the way technology is growing, and there's always gonna be somebody trying to outdo.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
You're looking for a motion?
Yes, sir.
Make a motion, we go with Spectrum.
A second.
Any further discussion?
Oh, we can keep the same phone number.
Okay.
Already tell that, but that was either way.
Alright, all in favor of moving the town's telephone and internet service to Spectrum Mobile, or Spectrum? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Give him the ring. Alright, Sheila. This one's you.
Yeah,
Director.
I talked to Ms. Georgiana and we're working on the budget meeting stuff. The finance thing, y'all see I blowed it up for you so you can read it better. But the printer we have now does not print legal size papers, the bigger size. And so I had asked Georgiana and Will if we could budget in for me to get a printer that would print legal size papers. So, A, so y'all could see the finance report. But B, there's a lot of cases where somebody will come in with their stuff for their permit, and I don't have a printer big enough to print their
Right.
sheets off because they're not legal size, I can't put a legal size sheet. So I had asked them about budgeting, and I looked into the prices of them. I don't know if I put those copies in there or not, but
I don't see it.
one of them I looked at is a Brothers, wireless inkjet. It's $229.99. The cartridges for it, just black ink is like $61.99. And the color ink is like $69.49, but that's a pack of 3, one of each color.
Did you say the one we have now does not print legal?
Does not.
Did it ever?
No, it
Okay.
only prints 8 by 10s.
How does the cartridge compare dollar wise?
Well, with the Brothers, it's about the same, as far as boxes of ink. Now this one is an Epson, I looked at that one, and it comes with, I think it said 3 months worth of ink. But it is the bottles, where you buy the bottles of ink,
Right, yeah.
that you squirt and fill up with that,
Right.
and it comes empty. That is $4.99, that's $500 for the printer. But if I have to buy a bottle of ink, of black ink, it's only $21.99
Right, yeah.
to buy a
That's
bottle.
what I've got at Epson.
Is that more,
I buy
is that more
cents.
trouble and give more trouble or not?
I
Which one's the
never-
less
I never
maintenance?
get one of them. Well, this one would probably be less maintenance, cause it gives you 3 months worth of ink. I was trying to look at the long span of buying ink cartridges,
Yeah,
cause we go through a lot of black ink cartridges,
Right, yeah.
and that's what, $70-some a pop
right.
to get a black ink cartridge.
Are they both compatible with your other equipment?
Should be, but so they print, 8 by 4, legal size papers. But I'm thinking long term, I'm looking at the Epson, I mean, I know it's $500, but you get 3 months worth of ink when you buy it.
Right.
And long term, when we have to buy more ink, it's gonna be cheaper, cause we
Right.
only pay $21 for a bottle of ink.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's which would you like to go with, like I said,
Of
Brothers.
course, my Epson wasn't that expensive because it's a different.
And I bet you find one cheaper than that with the
Well,
bottles, that
I
was
mean,
just
you
kind
gotta
of
have one that
what.
works for the.
As far as the ink, is that messier or?
No,
Yeah, it's just a bottle, you can cap it, stick it in a port,
yeah,
in that little tank, and you
Yeah.
squeeze it and fill it in the tank, and you
Right.
just pull it out, put it back on it.
It's
Oh, that's
easy.
good.
if I can do it, everybody can.
Well, I ain't gonna do it.
And
I
I
just-
think if I want it a little bit between the 250 and the 500. Does
I
have
was
to
at
be
home
in the
has a
middle type
cartridge and I
deal.
know they're expensive.
Yeah,
But those little bottles of ink, they're pretty cheap, as far as saving on ink costs.
Are you familiar with brand name Brothers?
I'm not.
How much was the
Not
dollar?
a big prayer.
Epson,
But
I am.
I've got some smaller devices that are really, but,
Just the brother.
they're an old brand, a
Brothers
relatively
is
old
$229.
brand. Okay. Cause I used to have a word processor that was on there.
see the one I
It's
had,
not.
I had to get something else
All that
because the
mess
one I
is
had
disposable now anyway.
It
was
is.
Word or
Can't
something.
repair it like you used
So
to.
I had to get another printer and I went with the Epson. because I'd seen it advertised about the bottles and stuff.
And like I said, what I'm doing now is, y'all having to pay mileage to go to Office Depot to rent copies of the,
Yeah.
which I don't mind, don't get me wrong, I don't mind doing that for y'all, but tenfold, it would help me with that, plus it would help me when people come in with their legal size papers.
Right.
And I have to make them go make me copies and bring back. So, that's not an everyday occurrence, but that does occur.
So it sounds like your recommendation would be that, from what you've seen. and what you're
Budget-wise,
anticipating.
economy-wise, yeah, because the ink will end up being in the long-term cheaper, I think.
And like you said, they're compatible with the hookup.
Should be, yes. Yes. But now I might can find one that's a little bit cheaper than that, that's just one that I found.
Okay.
That just gives you kind of a range.
Right,
But if you go with the cheaper printer now, you're gonna be paying the same amount every month for ink.
right, and
Or
so,
every 2 months, we'll have to buy ink.
How
And I was
often is-
thinking, pay
how-
more now for the printer and get a cheaper run on it with the ink.
right,
Because
yeah.
that's what we use.
How often do you have to change add a cartridge?
It just depends on how much we're printing a month. If we do letters out to townspeople,
Once a month?
we'll have to change that, yep, I'm gonna have to change now. On the dorm, it may be, like I said, a lot of pens. Like I've been printing the ordinances for everybody, so they have a copy to go through. So that burns up the ink.
I'd like to make a motion that we give Sheila the flexibility to invest in purchasing a printer, preferably the Epson brand, and up to $500. If she can find something compatible that's less, that's great. If not, we would give her that opportunity.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor of basically giving Sheila a new way to choose her printer, budgeted up to $500, say aye. Any opposed?
I will discuss it with Will before I motion. Thank you.
You're the one that's gotta use it the most. Alright, last item on the new business agenda is, something I've already talked a little bit about with a couple of you, and that is the possibility of doing some town hall meetings. Predominantly, this is in response to some of the legislative actions that we've talked about. And the town's reaction to it is perhaps different than what the residents' reaction to it needs to be. What I mean by that is, it seems to be a foregone conclusion that ETJs are gonna be a thing of the past. And the reason that I say that is,
Say that again?
it seems to be a foregone conclusion that ETJs are going to become a thing of the past. There are several different versions in the language of this, but the Senate Appropriations Bill that has already passed the Senate and is now sitting in committee in the House does have a clause doing away with ETJs. That particular language leaves it up to the individual county. But come on, if the county is gonna be able to take full control, do you really think they're gonna pass it up? So, like I said in our last meeting, and as I discussed a little bit with the planning board in their meeting, it is up to ETJ residents at that point to determine, do they want to just fall under county jurisdiction, or do they want to roll into part of the town? We cannot initiate that action, but we can educate people. And that's the purpose.
So we don't have the choice of taking them in. We've tried that before.
Right.
No, we didn't try to take them in, we tried to extend our ETJ before, and they said pretty much hell for
I said, forget it, yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't have any chance.
Right.
But that was to extend ETJ up to a mile where we don't have it.
And not to get super deep in the weeds again, I've read a statute, I'm not the attorney, so I don't know the process specifically. But the way that the statute reads, it is a fairly straightforward process, it looks like. Individual residents must petition us to be absorbed into the town. Their property must touch town. So if we're going down 64, the first person has to be first on the list, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next. There is in theory not a limit to how far you can go. If the person on the left side of the road decides not to join, and the person on the right decides they do want to join, that is permissible. Because crossing roads, crossing railroads, crossing bodies of water counts as being contiguous. Again, that's action that has to be initiated by residents. I think Jordana said,
Jaren's parents, they are in a subdivision and they requested to be taken in by Nashville, so Rocky Mount couldn't take them in.
and that's kind of the gist. And part of what the planning board talked about, and actually Jordan asked the very direct question, and rightfully so, that, okay, what's in it for us if we were to do that? Because then we're falling under town zoning. Well, we're working on our own zoning right now. We can make that zoning a little more flexible and a little more conducive to an ETJ type, former zoning, and thereby not really be taking anything from them in addition to, or other than the couple of $100 to keep people out of their backyard. That's
Still, the
all- that's
ideal
all
would
on
be
us.
to leave it like it is,
That'd be great. I don't see it happening, but that'd be great.
but it's still not this, it's still up in the air.
It gets less and less up in the air each day.
What's the purpose for them
There's a whole lot of different legislation on,
because
that are hitting
technically,
cities and towns.
if they get it like they are trying to do it, correct me if I'm wrong, everything in ETJ would just be county.
Or town.
And then the county would run right up to the city limits,
Okay,
correct?
yes, yes. From what it appears, based on what I'm reading on all the different things that they've thrown
Your
into
opinion.
several of these different ones. So this is a reading the tea leaves sort of deal. There is an effort in Raleigh, and there are a handful of different representatives that are kind of spearheading this effort. There is an effort in Raleigh, which I don't fully disagree with. I don't particularly like the fact that it's in Raleigh, because I'm a small government guy, and I don't like people telling me the next level down what they ought to do. What they're trying to combat is what they call paper towns.
What?
Paper towns. Let's see if I can find one that and what that is, and there are a lot of them out west, so they're not, it's easy to feel targeted, but there are a lot of these out west. Like I have said before, there are some towns that are legitimately family towns, but they're only towns in name. So they're taking the benefits of being a town, nobody else can come in here without any of the cost of being a town. One of the more recent things that has been put out, and this was put out last week, is authorizing Legislative Research Commission to study paper towns in North Carolina. And they define a paper town from this particular piece of legislation. We're free because, we're safe because there was a legal change. But after 1995, there was a minimum requirement of services to be offered by new towns. And there are towns that incorporated after that are not offering those services. They want to make them go away. The reason,
They just incorporated to protect their area.
yes, correct. The reason that,
So you're saying those paper towns don't have a board?
I don't, yeah, some of them don't. They literally exist on paper. A town is a business by definition. And a business that is inactive still gains certain advantages, be it tax advantages or you're able to expense things and that kind of stuff. And that's basically what's going on with some of these small towns. The other thing that I see them doing is telling towns, if you want to control an area, control the area. No half measures. Because frankly, an ETJ is a half measure.
Well, we control that not as much, but it's still a buffer or safety zone.
How much say do they have over what we do?
Well, there's more of a safety buffer zone, I guess.
That we benefit from, what do they get out of it?
Well, another city can't come take them over.
That wouldn't happen, that wouldn't be able to happen if they were part of town.
I suppose Nashville was granted an extension. They could come right up to our city limits.
Yes, they could. They could.
I just don't, I see your concern, but I don't want to jump too quick, because I would, in a perfect scenario, I would still want ETJ to stay in place. What's the next step for that to go away?
Vote in the House.
So, you said Senate had already voted to pass it.
Yes. And yes, Lisa Barnes voted in favor.
Is what?
And yes, Lisa voted in favor. And like I said, I don't fully disagree with the reasoning.
Well, why can't they just go after, why
Despise that it's coming out
can't
wrong.
they just go after the paper towns?
For the same reason that we can't selectively enforce ordinances. You can't be picking
Yeah,
on,
but if that's the
you
reason,
can't pick on individuals.
they could qualify, they could go after the paper towns as not following, or they could set it up where they could, I think.
That is.
So
getting a
this is
lot
gonna
more deep.
happen with Charlotte, Raleigh.
I'd say their motive is a lot more than just get rid of paper town.
I do too.
That could be wrong.
Well, and like I said, I think it's very much if you want to take the area, take the area.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, somebody else is gonna have it. You can't just,
What are they supposed to vote
you
on?
can't just barricade.
Right.
And so, it is currently in the finance committee. As soon as it leaves the finance committee, it can be voted on the next day. The calendar changes so
Is it
quickly.
any,
As of this morning, it was not on the calendar.
is it any gonna be any pushback from the municipalities?
There has been some. There has been a lot of pushback on the big House bill, the one that holds, individuals accountable and things like that.
And I'm sure they're not gonna allow grandfather clause.
No.
So what is this town hall meeting? I mean, not the,
Just an opportunity to sit with residents who are interested in getting more information,
Mhm.
and have
So
those
it would
discussions.
be presented to them how? This is what's on the table, it may or may not happen. And if it does,
What do you want to?
when would we have to act? We see, we can't act.
Right,
They would have to pursue
correct.
it individually or as a group.
They can do as a group.
I think you're doing them a favor if you, I mean, I'm sure most people don't have a clue.
Right.
I wouldn't.
But you wouldn't want them to, shouldn't, I think most of them would want to stay at ETJ, in a perfect world.
Mm-hmm.
But you wouldn't want them to pursue becoming part of the town if it hadn't passed yet.
Correct, and there is.
So after it passes, can they still do
They can do it up until the time they get swallowed up by somebody else.
it? Right.
But if other towns are not having these same conversations, they are not doing their people justice.
Well, I'll agree with, when are they supposed to be out of finance? Who knows?
there is no way to answer that.
They're on their own schedule.
The calendar is interesting to watch, and you can go to the legislative website and even watch committee hearings and all that good stuff. But something will show up on the calendar this morning and be gone this afternoon, and then you go to that individual piece of legislation and there's already been a deal made, it's moved to the next committee. Or they'll schedule something at 5 o'clock tonight, they'll schedule something for 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, and it'll be done by the time you get up and get moving and have your coffee to sit down and watch everything, the meeting will be done. So they move really fast when they wanna move really fast, and they move really slow when they wanna move really slow.
Whatever's in their benefit.
Exactly.
All right, 2 questions, or 2 comments. I believe that's a good thing to have the town hall. We just need to make sure that we present it correctly.
Correct.
It ain't done yet, but it looks like it's headed that way. And that's the way it needs to be
Reading
presented.
the writing on the wall, exactly.
And if it happens, then is when y'all can act. All right, we agree on that. I do.
Yeah.
Second thing, our planning board members that are in the ETJ, that we require to be in ETJ, how would we address that? We'd have to change our planning board.
If
They could stay on, but they would just, ETJ
If
part of them
they
just go
were-
away.
If they're in town, they can, if they're not in town, no. If ETJs no longer exist, there are no longer ETJ representatives on the planning board.
Correct.
If
So
they
we add-
chose to be annexed, they can do that, but they can then be on, but not if they don't.
So if they do away with it, and if we don't annex them, then we'd have to get some more members that were in the town.
Not necessarily. We're only required to have a
How
five.
many is on
We're
it
only
now?
required to have a 5-member board,
How many is on it now?
counting the 2 alternates. So what we would probably have to do is get one more member. One more full member.
So you would probably just take the town alternate, and just find another alternate.
Y'all's opinion individually, I think I know the answer, but I want to hear y'all's opinion. It would be the best case scenario if the ETJ stays in place. Is that how y'all think?
Yeah,
Or not.
It don't look like it's gonna happen, that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've been, that's what we've had, but
Right. And the
I
second,
don't think anybody wants to change, but.
and then the second best would be to incorporate them.
Some water, baby?
Yeah, I can't vote.
Well, if they choose not to, then I don't think it would take long for the other side to come this way and for that side to come this way.
Yes.
I would
Where's-
say they would pounce pretty
Yes.
quick.
I would suspect.
So
I'd be surprised if they didn't.
Right.
Where's Nashville's ETJ stop?
Just this side of the prison, I believe.
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah.
Just this side of the
Pleasant
prison.
Road, Church Road is where they've always told me it's.
And all the stops.
I don't know that it goes all the way to the Rueton sign out there. They're very close together.
Right, yeah.
They're probably,
I know the
A
subdivisions
quarter to
in
a
the
half mile.
ETJ.
yeah, they're very close together. Their border versus ours. So. No, and to Richard's point, that's exactly why I'm saying the knowledge needs to be there. Nobody needs to necessarily pull the trigger until it's a deal, until it's a done deal. But the process takes time, and the first one to the finish line is the one that is gonna end up getting those areas. And so, and some of these, there's like a 2-year lag time between passage of the bill and the actual thing taking place. But that's to give people time to go through that process. It's gonna take every bit of that 2 years. So,
If it votes to go that way.
Yep.
As far as our town hall concerned, I guess we're gonna send out a cover letter,
do that.
but I would like to have ones to hand out to the people in the subdivision and go hand them out personally. And you could send them one.
That's fair. No, and my,
That letter would be an invite to the town hall and the purpose of it. And try to just explain it.
right.
You know.
Give a brief explanation and then the way that I envision that would be as conversational as possible. Which means small groups. I don't care if I have to do 20 of them
Right,
to.
that's why I would like to go and verbally,
Right, exactly,
personally hand them out, because I know them all.
exactly.
And
That is definitely.
it was a
personal
big deal
touch.
when they built there, that it was not in town.
And truthfully, like I said, we have the flexibility now to make our zoning, keep the things that are important to keep us in place, lot sizes and things like that. But we can actually chill out a little bit on some of the other stuff. Truthfully. And honestly, those things that we can chill out on are kind of the hot button issues, if you really want to be honest. We don't have to be that tight on them. We're under no obligation.
I don't have exact, Sean, but
Do we-
it shows.
Do we know how many residents are in the ETJ?
Roughly 100 households.
There's his development. There's Pleasant Grove Church Road, so it is like right there at John Lee Whitley's property is where it is on that side of town. Then you come back over on this side of town, that's Masonite Crossroads. Come on, you probably, there's Bass Road, so you're probably looking at just past, the Brantleys. Right before the Brantleys, cause they couldn't annex Charles Bass.
So where is it on,
Right before.
where is it on Spring Hope side?
It's, you go through Masonite Crossroads.
I mean, on 64, where does it, how far is it going?
Basses, that's what I'm looking at, give me a second. Bass, coming up from there, you're probably looking at just Bass before you get to Charles Bass's house.
That's where their ETJ stops, just
Our-
past,
For ours.
Our
between-
ETJ, our ETJ.
between
Because when they were annexing people and getting their ETJ, said they wanted to take the town limits all the way out to take in Charles Bass.
Right,
But the county would not let them do that.
right.
So they brought them back to where the town limit is now. But then when they took out their ETJ to 1 mile, it still didn't take Charles Bass in. It was right there at the line, it cut Charles
So it's
Bass
between
off.
Kelvin's and Charles Bass.
Yes,
All right, how about on the Nashville side?
it's right there at John Lee Whitley's. It's right there around John Lee Whitley's house. And before you get to DOT,
I was thinking it was the creek, but evidently it goes a little past
it
that.
goes a little past the creek, because there's your development and you come on down. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at right there at John Lee Whitley's where the sign is. It says Town of Moomire. Give or take. But it doesn't go all the way to DOT's drive. So it may be close to the creek in that general perspective. I'd have to pull up the gist to give you exact, but.
Well, what was that lady's name that was on the planning board that was in the ETJ? That her husband passed away?
It was
Beaver?
Bieber.
Yeah, so it's got to go by her house, right?
It's right there past, the way it looks, it's right there past John Lee Whitley's house.
Right.
Almost where that little sign is, it was, it said Town of Moomire.
Right, yeah.
Right there at the forestry building.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it don't make it to the DOT drive,
Right.
it goes down to the prison.
Is this light green, the ETJ?
Yeah.
Well, that's showing the creek is the line. Ain't it?
I don't see the creek
I
on
don't see
there.
the creek on it, but. It may be where those, lines get fat and blend into each other.
Yeah.
That is the creek.
Okay, if it's the creek, it's the creek.
You see, after it crosses 64, it leaves the creek, because the creek goes this way. And then it goes straight to Young Road, Trussell Loop Road. On our Old County Home Road.
So are we looking to,
Sheila, can I get a
to
copy?
approve or?
No,
More of a
I can't do it.
conversation.
I can't
It's
do a
not
legal
something that
size.
necessarily needs a vote.
Do what?
No, because I can't do a legal size copy.
More a,
Make him do
Well,
it.
hurry by your machine. Or when you get it,
I mean, I can split it and
There
do
you
a
go.
half and half,
There you
like
go.
that.
Then you take
I'll
it
wait.
together.
I thought it was a good idea and wanted to discuss.
But I'll make you one when I get
what it would
rid
look
of
like
next frontage for
more than anything else.
on the first copy.
I'd like to keep it small
Mhm.
per meeting, so that it's not a whole big room of people.
Right,
I think it's
But
a service
it
to
needs
our
to be something
residents,
here.
yeah. I do
have
too.
conversation.
Like I said, I don't care if I gotta do 20, it is what it is. And we work from there.
You're talking about doing a series of them.
Yes.
Well, you won't have control over how many come at a time, right?
We will do, invitation or OCD. We'll limit attendance to however many we can fit in the room.
You said 11?
However many we can fit in the room is probably,
Because you're talking about having it here, right? So we don't have to, that's the Wilson building.
Oh,
If you have all,
we'll just do it here.
wait, here or there?
Here.
He's not talking about having
To
it
keep
all
it
at
small.
one time. He's
Keep it
talking about
small.
having certain ones at certain times.
Well, if you're keeping it in here.
why would you want it instead of,
Because I don't want 50 people in a room echoing and nobody hearing what's being said.
If you get it in here,
I would
you've got
prefer to be able to
chairs for
sit down
10.
and have conversations instead of
Plus. okay.
standing up with a microphone and, having very limited audience participation like you see in a lot of these big town halls that go on.
hope we could have order in on meeting,
Well, you get
because
20 people in a room
I think-
whispering. It's not a
and
matter
I
of
see, I
disorder.
see your point, but one group of people might not ask the questions that another group might ask, and they will want to know, oh, I didn't think of that.
Correct. But you're gonna get more people having the availability to ask questions in a small venue than you are in a large one.
We don't have the capacity to handle 50 people at one time when you're trying to discuss something either.
So it's not a matter of order, it's a matter of you have to be able to have the conversation and fully answer the question. You know, we're not having play town halls like some bigger politicians do. We're having actual conversations. You know, which is why I keep office hours,
When we
so we
get
can
a-
have actual conversations.
When we get a draft of the letter, I'd like to see it.
Absolutely.
Before we send it out.
Yeah. No, this was more a matter of making sure you guys were kind of on the same page that we need to be having these types of conversations.
I agree 100%.
That's what I have. Anybody else have anything today? Well,
I'll make a motion with you.
Second.
all in favor? Any opposed? Meeting was adjourned.